Hello, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from women in digital who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. If you'd like to learn more about us, you can at www.togetherindigital.com. And this week, I am excited to introduce all of you to Adrienne Owens-Jones. Owen Jones, I add an S to your other name, Adrienne. She helps leverage data and technology to improve their strategy and drive growth. Oh, I might have accidentally pasted and cut your bio incorrectly. This is a good Friday. Already off to a killer start. Adrienne is known for bringing a creative approach to problem solving, coupled with sound technical skills honed over time as an analyst. She is a fellow data junkie. She is not alone in this data junkie world that we all love to live in. And through a non-traditional path in which she arrived here, she has started at top world rank. Oh, wait. She started off we're going to get into this more, I promise. She started off as a top world ranked player in the world of Warcraft, which I think is, again, one, for women, not a space where there's a lot of female gamers, much less top ranked. That could be a whole nother conversation, Adrienne, but for another day, and not nerd out too hard. But this experience had taught her the critical and technical leadership skills that she uses today as the Chief Growth Officer and EOS Integrator at 368. She is a lifelong learner, has her bachelor's degree from Omaha State in classical studies, and is pursuing her MA/LA at Louisiana University with a focus on leadership and emerging technology. Her research is exploring the relationship between millennial leadership and video games. So cool. And she is a Gallup certified strengths coach. Adrienne, so many reasons why we're excited to have you here with us today. Thank you for joining us in the Power Lounge.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I am really excited to be here.
Of course. So as I mentioned earlier when I was reading your bio, you are among friends as far as being a data junkie. All of us work in digital marketing and advertising and tech. So we're right there along with you. I ask not just for myself, but for our listeners, from one data junkie to the next, how did you come into this line of work? And again, we love a good non-traditional career journey story, and clearly yours is such. So I wanted to give some time to let you expound upon that.
Yeah, happy to. So I'll start by saying I don't think that anybody that really identifies themselves as creative or strategic often has a really linear career path, right? I think people like us have the ability to kind of, see point A to point Z really clearly where maybe others don't, and kind of connect the dots between one skill to the next. And that allows you to kind of explore different types of careers. So that's absolutely kind of been my experience, and kind of the theme throughout my career is stepping into a role, applying that kind of learner mindset, learning new skills, seeing how they can apply to another thing, learning new skills there and on. So you mentioned that I started off as a gamer in World of Warcraft. My very first job out of college, I was doing community organizing. And during that time, was also working as a nanny, and then was also playing video games. And I kept playing games for years, and ultimately ended up being, as you mentioned, one of the top 40 players in the world for my class. So at a time when there was 13 million players. So it was a really arduous experience. And I think something that people discredit the experience of gamers, but during that time, I really did learn robust data analysis skills. I learned how to lead global teams. I learned how to visualize and communicate data to tell a story, so that way I could set strategies for my team, and had to really rapidly iterate on strategy because the games would change so quickly. So, taking all of that, I've applied elements of it throughout my career, for a while in fundraising, and then IT, and now leading a really amazing creative team at 368.
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Leading global teams. I see that on a resume, but you don't think about that. And I think what that speaks to really nicely is I think a lot of women that I will talk to, speak with, coach, a lot of times feel like these passion points of their lives and the things that they've gained experience in aren't worthy of either talking about or putting on their resume. I'm curious, when you were out there and looking and leaning towards like more IT or data driven type work, did you talk about that experience in that same context you just shared? And
Heck
did
yeah.
you feel comfortable talking about it?
Yeah.
That's
One of the things, like one of my favorite compliments I ever received, someone said, Adrian, you're just so unapologetically Adrian. And it's like, I think I just don't know any better. I just was never ashamed of it. It's
great.
like, this is really amazing
Mhm.
experience that I have,
Yeah.
and so I think that enthusiasm carries through. I think when you're passionate about what you do and what you're talking about, it
Mhm.
helps others have buy-in there.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree. We should, one of our listening guests just said we should all be unapologetically us.
Amen.
And I absolutely agree. Yeah, it's going to get you everywhere, all the places you're meant to be. All right. So our topic of discussion today is interaction over interruption, which even us as marketers, we can all appreciate. However, my question for you is that in a world full of messages and with most of us having the attention span of a goldfish, how do we create interactions that do not feel like interruptions? I think a lot of us kind of fall into very common patterns of this is what marketing is. I know it's a big question, but I was kind of curious to pick your brain on the topic more.
Yeah. I think it's about one, you said, the memory of a goldfish. It's like you have to show up consistently for,
Mm,
for, for your customers. And I think it's about going where they already are. Like know your customer intimately, show
yeah.
up where they are consistently over time,
Mhm.
and don't bulldoze.
Right.
Come in, listen, and add value. I think that's ultimately at the end of the day, the difference between the interaction over interruption is find a way to add value to your customers, find a way to engage with them in a meaningful way. And that's going to build that brand loyalty. I heard a stat yesterday that I can't get out of my head. It like blew my mind. 83% of customers say that they would purchase from a brand that they felt an emotional connection to. So going
Yeah.
to the place that you are speaking directly to your customers and kind of like building that emotional connection with them,
Mhm.
that's to me, how you start to kind of break through.
That's great. Yeah, exactly. Can you give me any like examples of ones that you've seen or you've done either in the past or observed others doing that you felt like were just like right time, right place, speaking the value and, being where they are versus trying to bring them to you?
Yeah, there's so many. There's this clothing brand here that I love called Queen of Sparkles, and she makes these like outrageous sequin
Uh,
outfits. We were talking earlier about Louisiana being kind of like a party
Yeah.
state. So I remember when she was launching her line, I had posted on a shop that was going to be selling her stuff. Can't wait till this comes out. Like, would love to see it because they were previewing some things on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
When the stuff landed in the shop and came out, she went back and tagged me in it and said, hey, wanted to let you know this drop is officially out. Come check it out. Post your picture. I'd
Wow.
love to see you in it. And then when I posted my picture, she reshared it, so it's
Uh-huh.
like that. It's so easy. All she had to do was go back to the post, look at everybody who commented. I'm sure I was not the only one, but it
Yeah.
built like I felt invested in her success
Mhm.
because she was asking me to be a part of this launch of her brand. So that's just one small example, but there's tons of them out there of people who are doing it really well.
Mhm. That is great. What are some common or what are some common marketing tactics? One of the things we talked about a little bit in kind of like discussion before this was that a lot of times marketing tactics show that they're trying to steal attention versus winning affection, which I think is a great kind of way to frame up and remind people or even question, like, are we trying to steal attention here or are we trying to win affection? Can
Yeah.
you expound upon that a little bit as a philosophy and maybe give us some examples?
Absolutely. So there's so many examples. I will say yesterday I was pumping gas in my car, which is already something that you're like, I don't want to be paying to put gas in my car. It's like, it's already an annoying experience. Right. And I was getting yelled at by this ad on the gas machine.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
like, come check out these, that is like the definition of interrupting my experience. You go to food blogs are notorious for this. You go and there's like a million pop-ups and they won't let you actually read the thing until, you can find the tiny X. It's like, that is not effective. That's not effective. It might get somebody to accidentally click,
Right.
but that is not going to build brand loyalty. And if anything, it's going to leave a negative taste in the mouth of your customer.
Yeah, I agree. You're just pissing them off.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I just want the recipe. I've been there. And I'll just leave the recipe in the page altogether because it's just one of those things where it's like so much interruption, so much intrusion. It's like, look, I only have so much time to even decide what's going to be for dinner, much less get to this recipe. If I can't, then I'm done.
Absolutely.
So what are some good examples of brand interactions or engagements that have been more about winning affection versus stealing attention?
Yeah. So I gave that great Queen of Sparkles example. I think I remember seeing a roundup of like good customer experiences versus bad ones. And it was talking about how, Chewy, for example, would, your pet passes away, they will take the food back, even if the bag is opened, because they know that's a traumatic time in your life. No questions asked. They will take any of that returned, and they'll send like flowers and bereavement notes and all kinds of lovely things. It's smart business because they know you are likely to get another pet again in the future, or may have another pet, So I think that's an example of building that strong brand loyalty. And it pays over time, right? I think these are the things where so often people are looking at what's the bottom line right now. And CX is a little bit more of a long play, but not that long. Another stat I read recently said that investing in CX initiatives can double your revenue over the next 36 months. And, they do that by, increasing lifetime value, by increasing conversion, and by increasing rate of referral. So all those things add up a lot over time. And so to me, it's about like, forget the, Ritz-Carlton does it really, really well too. They give employees, a surprise and delight budget, to just make a customer's day, and just that experience builds tremendous loyalty. So it's more upfront, but the lasting impact, that lifetime value of that customer is so much more.
100%. Yeah. I remember hearing that about Chewy as well. And I thought that was a very thoughtful and intentional way to treat your customers. And I love that notion that you have to look at CX as not the short-term payoff, but the long-term price for loyalty. And honestly, I mean, again, marketing 101, we all know it costs 10 times as much to get a new customer as it is to keep an existing. So it just kind of made me think. I even just jotted down, I was like, oh, we need to brainstorm more CX initiatives, like as a regular part of planning. I mean, I know we're a little past planning season and for most companies, agencies, brands, but yeah, how often are you actually stopping to think about when, where, and how can we create, like you're saying, a more engaging interaction that will grow loyalty, and not just by a transactionary thing like points. I mean, I feel like that's anytime we talk loyalty to any brand, it's like, great, let's do loyalty points where they buy so much, they get this much from us and that feels transactional, and versus the Chewy example where it's like they know what's happening and they take that unexpected moment and turn it into something where they can surprise and delight you.
Absolutely.
And the Ritz.
And, this is what customers expect, right? So, I'm not going to remember the stat off the top of my head, but a majority of customers say that they expect brands to personalize their interactions based off of their history with that brand. So it's meeting a new demand. All of this data has allowed us to have this deep personalization, deep customization. And so now that it very much is the expectation.
Yeah. So what are some common missed opportunities that you feel like brands have often to kind of build affections with their customers that we aren't maybe thinking of?
I think that handoff from marketing to customer service is one that gets missed a lot. We were just talking about conversion, right? And I think people so often really audit the CX experience, getting to reducing that friction to the point of sale or to the point of purchase or, converting them to a user,
Right.
download, whatever. Okay, so what after that? It becomes this virtuous cycle. If you build that affinity and you build that engagement, that creates advocates for your brand. So then those advocates start telling your story. It ties you as a person to that brand in an almost personal way. So for me, I feel like, in the Queen of Sparkles example, it's like I recommend her stuff to people. I tell people I love her products, and that reinforces for me, I want to stay on top of what's going on. I want to see what her like seasonal drops are, So I think that looking past that point of conversion is where a lot of people kind of drop off.
Yeah, I agree. I can't tell you how many user journeys, whatever you want to call them, that I've seen that like run that full cycle of going towards affinity, loyalty, referral, but there's very little time or energy spent there because it's like, well, we feel, I mean, I'm generalizing, but most people think, oh, conversion is what we're after. Conversion is what we got. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, again, stopping and thinking, not just looking at your CX initiatives for the year and where you're putting timing, effort, and energy into it. But again, just not leaving them high and dry. As soon as you finally get them in the door, don't
Yeah.
disappoint. Like this is your moment to shine and to really make a loyal customer of someone. How
Yeah.
many of our user journeys are missing that element and ask?
Absolutely. Another brand that does this so well is Rent the Runway. So I am like a loyal, fanatical Rent the Runway fan because they have been with me at so many stages in my career where I couldn't afford to look the part until I was the part, right? Like being able to have the suits or have the gowns or whatever it took to be in the room. Rent the Runway was able to get me to kind of like that next step. And they have been so consistent through COVID with, literally handwritten notes in the bag sometimes, send, free items. So like I kept my membership all the way through just because like I wanted to support this brand that I felt like had been there for me. I wanted to be there for them at this time when there were no events and people were not using Rent the Runway, So I think that that's such an example of they could have so easily dropped off after that. Again, after I used them one time, not continue that personalization, but it's like they continue to like their innovation roadmap is so customer centric. Every single new feature they add is so hyper tuned to who their customer is. And yeah, they have a referral bonus program, but it's not cheesy. It's not a thing that they put front and center. It's something that's like, here's one of many things that we do for you. And, we are grateful for your advocacy of our brand.
That's awesome. That's really great. So I think that leads nicely into kind of our next question. When you are creating those experiences, you just shared and advocated for Rent the Runway as somebody who's used it based on your experience. So I feel like it might be obvious to everyone who's listening, but I still want to ask, why do you feel that customers telling your brand story is so important?
Yeah. I will say I've worked with customers that are very afraid of this. They're like, what if they say something we don't agree with? What if they say something, what if somebody says something bad? Like, if they're saying something bad, that's a time to learn, right? That's an opportunity to learn and grow. If they're saying something you don't agree with, well, it's still a value add for this person. So what can you take from it? Like the biggest thing I will say people miss in CX is listening, active listening to your customers. And what is the value that they're finding from whatever it is that you are providing them? So I mean, what is the value of others telling your story? It's that show, don't tell. The majority of people these days, this is the world is at an all-time low in trust. And particularly under the age of 50, there is extremely low trust in brands. People are skeptical, especially skeptical of advertising. People know it when they see it. They don't want to be sold something. There's a sense of jadedness about it. So when you have someone that is not personally benefiting from recommending a product, that inherently builds greater credibility. You are seen, it is seen as more authentic to the customer or to the potential customer when it's your friend or someone that you respect online. There's a woman, oh God, I'm going to forget her Instagram handle, but she's a beauty influencer, and she's like an over 40 beauty influencer. And I love her because I'm like concerned about aging skin, and she will do sponsored posts and she will do sponsored things, but she is extremely high integrity. She says, I promise you, I'll never recommend something I don't use myself, something I don't believe in. I've seen her give negative reviews of products, and that so builds credibility with me. I can't tell you how many just random like things, face zappers and serums and whatever I've purchased because I trust her opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that's what brands need to understand is like sponsored content, I think is such a valuable way to build customer loyalty, and really expose yourself to new potential customers is letting others tell that story. Yeah.
I 100% agree. I can't tell you how many times I sit through presentations, conversations, creative briefs where it's like authenticity, but they don't want to do anything with customer stories. And which blows my mind because you look at, TikTok influencers, YouTube, Instagram, I mean, they are rolling in it and they have a tremendous number of loyal followers because people will trust people before they trust a product.
Yeah.
And until they've tried it, they can't trust it. They don't want to waste their time or their money. And so when they trust a person and they're talking about it in a way that is real and authentic, then I 100% agree with you. A bunch of things that sit on my desk on a daily basis are the byproduct of our weekly virtual co-workings that we do for Together Digital, where members are like, I can't live without this. I love having this. I'm like, oh, well, I need to get that blue light blocking face.
Yeah.
I need to get the little mister. I need to, it just
like universal red lipstick that I had like 2 people raving about. I was like, well, I got to try this universal red.
Right. We influence each other. And so I 100% agree. It's wonderful to find ways. What are some of the ways that we can create some better customer experiences and ensure that those stories, the ones that we want, we know that they're not all going to be good. Feedback is a gift, people. But how can we make sure that then they are shared?
Yeah. So I think one, you've got to have a strong social media presence, and know who your customers are. Some of the best brands I've seen follow their customers, have team members that follow customers. And so those are kind of like organically bubbling up. And then it's just so easy to reshare when that experience is happening, prompting people when you see a post, I would love to reshare this. Do you mind? I've been asked that and I'm always like, yes, absolutely.
Right.
I want people to know. Like I said, I think sponsored content is something that a lot of people are nervous about, or a lot of brands I've worked with are nervous about. Again, not sure if it works. Don't people think it's cheesy? It's like when it's somebody, again, you have to go to the right place.
Yeah.
Know your audience. Who is your audience listening to? Find those valued, vetted, trusted content creators and work with them. You can't just go ask any random person and expect to work. But, really, if you understand the community around your customer and the audience that you're trying to attract, go find those people, those kind of centers of influence and work with them.
So that would be your advice then for collecting and sharing those stories, is actively seeking out those kinds of influencers to kind of partner with and work with.
I think that's one way. Yeah. And then, like I said, being on social and hearing what your customers are saying, finding where people are talking about it. Yeah. I also love just resharing reviews, highlighting reviews, I think is really, really valuable. And reaching back out, we've had reviews that we learn something interesting in and go back to that client and say, can you tell us a little bit more about this? This was such an interesting insight to us. So again, like continuing the active listening and drawing out that story even more.
Yeah. Do you find yourself kind of encouraging, do you have clients that like work to collect those stories and keep leveraging those stories? Are there other like tools or things that they use for collecting and sharing?
Yeah. I mean, surveys I think are fantastic. I'm a huge fan of customer surveys. Again, data, right?
Get it.
The more data you get, the more informed you can be. Now you have to use it. If you're asking a customer for feedback and then you don't do anything with that feedback, it feels really shitty. So, I think that surveys, focus groups, that is a great way to start to collect some of those stories. I also encourage people this is slightly tangential, but like take the path of the customer yourself.
Mhm.
We're working with a really big brand right now, and the registration for one of their products is terrible. It's awful.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this in a meeting, and somebody on the call said, well, I don't think anybody on our executive team has actually ever registered for it.
Ah,
It's like, well, that's a problem right there. Walk through the front doors of your store if you're brick and mortar, and feel the customer experience. What do they smell? How is the wayfinding? Is it clear?
mhm.
What's the first thing that they see? I think that really having that customer experience yourself is how you can start to you'll find stories in that experience.
Yeah, I love that. I
Mhm.
always appreciated that. An agency I was at years ago, one of the creative technologists, he was always about that. He would joke and say I was like method brainstorming,
Yeah.
whatever product service we were working on to brainstorm, either for a pitch or for planning. He would always insist that the whole team go and take part of it, and kind of go through that customer experience itself. Even when we were like pitching for a relatively well-known like pizza place. We're
Yeah.
like, he's like, we're going in, we're going to order pizza in all the ways.
Yeah.
We're going to walk into the store, we're going to order online, we're going to
I
get delivery, just to kind of see, hear, and feel like how the entire experience works.
love
And I think it really did help sort of, just prime the juices for brainstorming. So even if you feel like it seems like an act in futility, it really does help you kind of open your eyes to, like you're saying, what they're seeing, hearing, feeling, and that can give you lots of ideas for opportunities and improvement on that customer experience. So yeah,
absolutely.
so fun. And then I also wanted to bring up, I agree with you. I feel like maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because I'm in marketing or it's a generational thing, but especially if I'm traveling, I love supporting small local businesses. So when I am traveling and I go to a great restaurant or I go to stay at a great hotel and they give amazing service, I am so likely to go on Instagram and add them to my story and tag them, or find a cute shop.
Yeah.
Like at our Denver summit, we had this amazing woman who did these beautiful charcuterie boards, brand new place. I was like, oh, we're going to help pump your business up. We're going to add you on our Instagram and tag you. And
Yeah.
she reshared and everything. But what's always a little bit of a letdown is when I tag a small business and give them props, and then they don't like either comment, like,
Yeah.
or even reshare. So I agree with you. It's such a small thing, but finding little ways to reward your customers for, taking the time to leave a good review, or share their experience, even positive or negative. If there's
Yeah.
feedback in it, like that's a missed opportunity if you're not doing it. So
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I look at reviews, I always go to what are the 4 stars, what are the 1 stars?
yep,
And if I,
I'm the same way.
and if I see that a brand has replied to a 1 star,
Yeah.
even just the act of replying says a
Oh
lot
yeah.
about them as a company. But if they contextualize or they say, I'm so sorry, we will repair. I'm like, okay, this makes me, yes, somebody's had a bad experience, but I'm going to discount that bad experience against the response of the brand to make it better.
I 100% agree. I am the same way. I always get a little concerned because I'll see like comments and thanks for all of the good reviews. And then there's some bad, or there's a feedback piece and they're just like, oh, we're just going to pretend like this doesn't exist. But hello, like the whole world has eyes and we can look
Yeah.
and see, and or read or hear that there was no response.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that is a great
Absolutely.
point.
And to your point about like reshare, comment, it's so easy. They've done you a service in promoting your business on
Yeah.
social. You should do the same, go amplify that
Mhm.
message. Again, it builds credibility.
Yeah, return the favor, 100%. That's great. All right. So we have a couple other fun off-topic questions. I want to check in with our live listening audience, though, to see if you all have any questions about building and creating consumer experiences that create interaction versus interruption before we nerd out about no-code tools and Gallup's strength finders. Wait just a second and see if any come through on the chat, or you can come off of mute if you feel so inclined. No, y'all just excited now to start brainstorming some new CX strategies. I know I am. We're in a lot of planning right now. So Adrienne, this has all been really exciting.
Yeah.
If you all have questions, feel free to drop them into the chat as we continue to talk. I want to make sure that we get to them. We will by the end. We'll have plenty of time, but I just wanted to make sure in case as we were on the topic of CX, we could address it now. All right. So let's talk about no code tools. I can't say it. No code tools for a minute.
It is a mouthful.
In case our listeners are not familiar, could you share what they are and why you feel they're so important?
Yeah. So no code and low code tools are really this exploding marketplace right now in, allowing average people to do what it used to require a developer to do. So our team loves Webflow. It's a low, no code web development tool. This has allowed us to empower our designers to be the ones who build the websites themselves. So realizing that creative vision without the limitation of a technically trained developer, it makes developing apps, websites, so many things much more accessible for people, because you don't have to be staffed with IT staff to do it, with software development staff to do it. It has allowed us to very quickly spin up what we call microsites, very small, 3-page sites for a lot of really incredible causes. So they have helped us really do incredible pro bono work and support the nonprofit community as a way that's not a huge time sink for us, but it's providing a tremendous resource for a community need. So that's been awesome. I also love no code tools because, I think they're bridging the gender divide in tech. So many men I know grew up with access to computers, learning to code early. And while it's becoming much more the norm for kids to just learn it, over the age of 30, that gender gap is still tremendous.
Absolutely.
And so bringing greater access to women having the ability to develop themselves without having traditional, CS degrees, computer science degrees, is just speaking my language. So I love no code tools. I think that they allow for, more faster, more iterative work. I think they allow for better creative, higher interaction. The ability of Webflow in particular is incredible. We basically build mini games inside of websites. It's so fun. And again, I think that they are doing so much to bridge that gender divide and give access to women, and especially people without deep pocketbooks to have access to some really powerful development tools.
That's incredible. Yeah. Once I saw you once you brought it up, I started looking into them and I was just like, and then I already saw Julie's eyes light up and she started to write down Webflow. And then will you give us a few of your other favorite no codes? Because this is probably what she's going to be doing with the rest of her day. I'm just saying.
So I'm trying to think of other strong, you won't think of this, but Canva is a low no code tool. It's empowering the average user to create high design objects. My designers hate that I use Canva, but I'm like, sorry, I wanted a mock-up on a cell phone 30 minutes ago, And so it's amazing what it has empowered the average person to do without having to have Adobe Photoshop.
100%. Yeah, no, I get it. I went to school for design. And just keeping up with everything that is in Photoshop, Illustrator, it is a lot. It is a full-time job of somebody. And when you need something quick, down and dirty, that still looks presentable. Yeah, it's hard to deny it. Yeah, I feel you with Canva, and I have a love-hate relationship with it. I wouldn't call myself a designer by any means. I kind of went the copy route in advertising, but knowing design principles and being able to get into Canva, it is absolutely a lifesaver. I mean, I had one thing to print that required outlined text for a print project, which I was like, okay, I can't do this in Canva. So it still isn't like everything. So designers, it's okay. Like we still need Adobe for some things. But I think I agree. Canva is another great example.
Exactly right. Like at this point, Webflow can't do everything either, right? Like we still build big sites in WordPress, but it gets you really far. It gets you a lot of the way there. And I think is ideal for building like really meaningful interaction digitally. It's by far the best. So
yeah, that's incredible. Yeah. And I think having been a former creative director who directed a lot of websites and redesigns, I think that freedom and not being limited by what code can and cannot do is also really exciting. So I'm kind of excited to look into some of these as well. Because that was always the back and forth. It's like, can we make this happen if I just say this is the interaction or the engagement that I want? Is this a feature? Can we code that? They'd be like, maybe, maybe not, you know?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, and there's tons out there for app development too. I can't remember the names, but I was watching one the other day that's literally like drag and drop. I mean, it's drag and drop app development. So
Crazy.
The world is changing in amazing ways, and I kind of love it.
And it's one other thing too, like I can't tell you how many women I've talked to within our Together Digital group. We have a lot of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs who have these brilliant ideas, but they're looking for a tech founder because they don't feel like you're saying, that there's that gap that they can't build what needs to be built from an interaction standpoint because they don't have they don't know HTML, they don't know Java, whatever code they need. Julie wanted to know, she asked in the chat, how does Webflow compare to Squarespace or Wix?
Yeah, like a rocket ship versus a skateboard.
That's a great analogy.
Wix is going to be highly templated, right? Webflow absolutely has templates, but the world is your oyster. And it again is very drag and drop. So you're dragging and dropping in the features and the interactions that you want. So it's really intuitive. What was the other? Oh, you said or Squarespace. So again, I mean, it's just, are you stuck in a box or are you not?
Yeah, that's great. So exciting. We're gonna have fun playing with those. Awesome. Well, we're all excited to check out some more no code, low code tools. All right. One more thing we're going to nerd out for here just a minute, because as I was reading and sharing your bio with everyone, it came up that you are a Gallup certified strengths coach, and at Together Digital, we love making sure that we are focusing on not just growing professionally, we're also growing personally, because we don't feel like you can grow professionally if you aren't growing personally. So I was definitely intrigued when I learned that you were a strengths coach, and I'm curious, what has this work done for you and how has it helped you help others?
Yeah. Oh, I love that question. So I think being a certified strengths coach is one of the coolest things I've done in my career. I love it so much because strengths are Gallup strengths, Clifton strengths. There's 34 strengths. Taking the assessment, it's highly data again for a bunch of data. It's very much backed by data. So Gallup, the international polling firm, spent decades doing research on millions of people and really honed it down to, I think it was originally 36, but they narrowed it to 34 core strengths. And so they give you kind of your top 5, and then, they'll rank them on from there. And by understanding your strengths, it really helps you see what makes you uniquely you. It helps you. I use it all the time for personal branding. So, people might say, I'm a great communicator. Okay. Lots of people say that. For me, I have strength in ideation, I have strength in strategic, and I have strength in input. So the way that I communicate is going to be conceptual and is going to have lots of stats, as we've noticed today, right? I like to connect disparate dots between things. Whereas somebody that has high individualization and maybe high relator is going to be somebody who remembers all the personal details and really wants to draw out those deep, good questions about what makes someone uniquely them. So, they're going to be the rapport builder in terms of their strength in communication. So it really helps to identify what makes you uniquely you. So how has it helped me? I mean, so I'm chief growth officer, right? I'm responsible for helping 368 figure out how do we grow and scale. So many people view that as just a sales function, but I really look at it as people first. People, process, technology, those are the things that help any organization grow and scale, and people front and center. How do you empower people to do their very best work? Leaning on their strengths, understanding their strengths, working in a strengths-based environment where people are celebrated for what they're inherently naturally gifted at. So that's why I absolutely love StrengthsFinder. It gives teams a common lexicon for calling out each other's unique capacities. So I mentioned input. That's one that a lot of people don't know. Input is strength, it's a resource gathering strength. So you're somebody that remembers random facts, gathers resources here and there. If somebody says, do you know a good dry cleaner? I'm like, I can give you 5. What are you looking for? That's that input strength. And so now that, we have this common lexicon, when the team sees it, they know how to, call it out and say it. So I love that you all love strengths too.
We do. We kind of go over all the things. So we've been big into Enneagram, strengths finders. There's like even a color, red, yellow, green
Yeah.
theory that we've looked at. I'm trying to think of the disc as well, because it's like there's you'll start to see overlap and similarities in sort of how each of these things express themselves. And like you said, it only makes you more self-aware in the way that you're able to promote and talk about what you do, how you do it, and why you do it well, but also others. And I agree with you. I think how many of us get so anxious when it comes time for our annual reviews, because so much discussion could be around here's where you need to improve versus kind of having a more balanced conversation of here's where your strengths are, and appreciating those as well. So yeah, and also our live listeners have added to the chat. Funny enough, Dell mentioned she's input, intellect, learner, arranger, maximizer.
Awesome.
Julie is a learner, individualization, strategic ideation, input. I am connectedness, input, developer, responsibility, positivity. So all of us that have shared all have input, which kind of just explains a lot with us sitting here talking today, getting more input and how to get more interaction versus interruption. Yeah, we've got a lot of learners and, developers, I think, within the group. And I agree with you, kind of learning what your strengths are. Again, it's only going to benefit you and help you communicate and share what you can do well with others. So yeah, love all those things.
Dude, very much.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that all the assessments, like it's kind of like a tapestry for how you help develop an individual. So I love Enneagram for one-on-one coaching with executives. So I have a side hustle where I coach executive women, and Enneagram is so great for getting to the root of, why are you feeling what you're feeling? Why are you behaving the way you're behaving?
Yes.
StrengthsFinder is so good for building teams and team camaraderie and good, solid team culture. I think DISC is so good for, honestly, like I love it in the sales context or like the fundraising context and helping people quickly identify those types. So that way you just have, again, a common lexicon for how does this person like to be communicated with?
Yes.
How is this person likely to react to feedback? So it's just helpful frameworks for all these different situations.
I agree. I had one company that I worked for. They're the ones who taught me about Enneagram, but then the guy that I was like, do you know your love language? And I was like, I don't know if that's applicable here. He's like, no, it absolutely is, because if you're a words of affirmation person, I know that I need to make sure I thank you and make it clear that I'm thanking you when you do something. If you're, like a lot of the guys in the office were physical touch. So they were down with every morning. They just had a bro hug in the mornings because that's what they needed to feel like filled up even while they were at work. So yeah, again, all those things. And I agree. I think I like the Enneagram and probably have nerded out the most over that. I think just from a personal development standpoint, knowing and understanding your own motivations as to why you have responses that you do is so insightful. And you don't realize, they call it shadow work, but you just don't realize how much about the way that you respond and react to things has so much to do with your internal motivations that were determined before the age of 7. And because all you've ever known, you just do it. And so learning my Enneagram type and exploring more.
What are you? I've got to know.
I'm a 9.
Oh, okay. I love it.
What about you?
My husband is a 9. And it's interesting because I'm an 8.
So
for those that don't know, 8 is the challenger and is really marked by being highly argumentative. And 9 is the peacemaker and it's highly marked by wanting to keep the peace. So a really nice yin and yang there.
It is a good yin and yang. Yeah. My husband's a 5, which I like and appreciate. Being a 9, I like, that was the thing that kind of led me to understanding my 9-ness, was like identifying with all of the types at any given time and mistyping over like 3 or 4 times, like every time I would try to take any kind of test. I ended up actually working with an Enneagram expert to sort of kind of work through and kind of figure out what my Enneagram type was, because that in itself is like a process for you. There's no like one clear and true test. It is a matter of time, research, and reading through. And once you get into stuff, I think me learning about my 9ness was, avoiding conflict at all costs. I have an 8 wing. Like I very much am justice minded.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing others being hurt. But then I also like have this desire to just not have to have a fight about it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Totally.
learning that I would back down or acquiesce or merge with others, like that was huge too as a 9. So
Yeah.
anyways, that could be, again, we've had some conversations on the Power Lounge about, I think at least one, maybe if not, we'll have to bring in another Enneagram
Yeah.
lady to come in and nerd out some more with us. But Julie also dropped Cloverleaf. It is an organization, we have had their COO on our podcast before. They are a platform that helps to build, establish, and kind of bring teams together through a lot of these assessments. So you can check out Cloverleaf. It's cloverleaf.me for our listeners. The link is also in the chat as well for our live listeners. So you guys can check that out. They have a lot of those tools and tips and lots of tests that you could take there. So yeah, if you guys aren't going to go off and nerd out for the rest of your Friday on no code tools, it might just be all the personality type things. So we got lots of stuff for y'all to go off and do on your Friday to learn more about yourselves, more about other humans, and maybe, use some of that to create some more meaningful interactions. So Adrienne, this has been awesome. I've so appreciated our time together and all that you've shared with everyone. If any of you want to connect with her, you can on LinkedIn. And then I believe we also have the your agency 368's website linked in as well. And we'll include that in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. This was a joy and a delight. I love that you are connecting and empowering women. I think women have the power to change the world, and conversations like this are part of making that happen.
100%. Thank you so much, Adrienne. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your Friday. Enjoy the nice weather if it's coming your way. Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.